Okay. Um, it's crazy how like when I'm able to listen to what I've said in my videos and watch people involved in this program. One thing has been clear to me. They've been trying to create this facade, right? This psyop. Obviously, I know better that the government is running this program, and the reason why I'm dying or whatever's happening to me is because governmental entities are doing that to me. But the truth is, they have created a facade, and the participant, these people, the people who participate in this program, they wanted to live that fantasy. They really wanted to make me see them as like, look at us, look how we look, and look at this picture over there. And it's disgusting. I gotta say that there's a little bit of disgust about it that I don't like. It's like, look at us. We are functional, logical looking, mostly women, and mostly that kind of women. And because of that, and yes, I'm talking about race, because of that, we're different. And they're like, no, you pay. That's abuse. And you know what they talk about? They talk about me as a child, right? Having to exaggerate what I did as a kid. It gets to the point where I even talk about role. It's so disgusting. I'll make a video specific to that, but it is so foul. Because the truth is, they know that they torture children, they abuse children. Actually, abuse children by torturing their genitals too. And the most disgusting part is, I'm supposed to block that out, look at them for the sensible women that they are. And the truth is, race is not a factor in regard of being a target individual, but they think that their race and gender and their standing in how professional they are in life should make me think otherwise about the reality of what they're part of. They tell me how I'm going to struggle. It's like, I know why I'm going to struggle. It's not because of you. You know that, right? If you participate in that, it's not going to stop the struggling. If these people didn't participate in whatever's going to happen to me, it would still happen to me. First of all, I'm looking at these people. It's like, I know who's the reason why I'm here dying and struggling. And please understand, it's not what I'm saying here. Now, are you participating in what's going to happen to me? Okay, go ahead. And they get so frustrated that what they want to do is see me being in the utmost sufferance, thinking that's going to change reality because I put things in their faces they hate it. Can you imagine these people involved in a program that torture women and children? Burn genitals of children. This person over there, he's like, oh, that's abuse. Try to talk about me as a child. Try to exaggerate what a child in middle school can do while being involved in a program where literally they're sexually torturing children. But looking at her, I should be like, hey, let me forget about how this child that's 4 years old with Down syndrome is being sexually tortured. But look at her face. Sometimes what they do is like, what they like to do is like they flip their hair. I was like, oh my gosh. And I know what I'm saying is not stopping anything. But what I'm saying is something that I know, even though when I'm no longer there, maybe it will dawn on them when things becomes different. And today I'm this genius that they've been trying to like create this fantasy. I mean, sometimes the things they do to make me think otherwise. Somebody is being comical with me, and I didn't even recognize her being try to be condescending. And I'm like, I look it up. I was like, what? Was she really being condescending in that fashion? Listen, I don't even care about it. It's like, oh, you're right, I realized one thing, being in this program, I don't need to see whatever is going to happen to them for that to happen. I don't. Matter of fact, I don't even care. But it's just the satisfaction that I can say these things, and I'm looking at this person. It's like, oh, that's abuse. Wait did you hear the abuse these people are involved in? Do you know how they counter that? Oh, they're going to be crazy when they rape you. It's like, what you mean when these kids they're not your kids, but this trash here, they're going to have their kids frame me. And you are hyping these kids to do that, knowing that these kids are going to need some fucking serious psychiatrists. And you're exciting because you don't have to have your kids or anybody do that. But this low life, because they're going to have their children do that. You're excited for that? You're a trash low life. But it's okay. I'm with you with that because I don't care about this low life too. Just like you guys are the same low lives. And I don't really care, and good for them. Let them live a long life of that. It doesn't faze me at all. But But they're hyping these kids, which is kind of sad. I should feel sad because I'm like, these people will never have their kids do that, though, right? You know that. You know it's just a dumbass at this point. Whatever incentive you get out of it is not worth whatever you get out of it, especially if you're a parent. There's no good future for anybody who involved themselves in framing people, especially that kind of frame. Talk about rape, but it's okay. They'll see what my magical wisdom later on, which I don't care for me to see that. But they're excited. These people are so excited because it's like, oh man, it's gonna help us feel like we're special. And they tell me how I'm going, but I was like, listen, I know who's gonna make me the reason why I'm gonna be homeless if I become homeless, when I become homeless. Matter of fact, you can't even say this man's name. I will never attribute what's happening to me to them. You partake, but it was going to happen. It's like a machine. This machine was going to go without you. You just joined something, enjoyed it, got the incentives out of it, and then. But I understand. I understand that I can never look at them, as responsible. My life was destroyed because I worked for this company. You know which one I'm talking about. The reason why you can't say Roy Moore in this clear way, that's why. But the most disgusting part, and what they show me, because these people who put me in this program are very conservative. They're very, very conservative, right? Listen, I'm more leaning on the progressive side. But it's been disgusting to see people have the ability to block out reality. Sometimes I'm like, wow, how can you function like that? Somebody said, no, it's abuse. It's abuse. And you know what they say that? Because there's this article about kids, right? Saying kids at a certain age can do stupid things like that. That's the mentality of a kid. The developing brain of a child is that capable, right? I guess it was too wise. It's like, no, but... and they say that, oh, what you consider abuse, it will be if there's physical contact. So me as a child, what I did, they try to exaggerate to create that. And some of the contacts are some of the most disgusting contact they try to make me imagine. But we talk about me as a child too. So these grown people involved in a program where like they abuse children by even sometimes burning their genitals are trying to find ways to counter reality. Listen, now at this point, I don't even need to speak anymore. I'm going to let the testimony speak for themselves. But you're going to see these faces. Imagine people like that. Grown-ass women. Some of them with children. Multiple children. Some of them maybe with grown children too. Having to block out the reality. And on top of that, these entities... because obviously it's not this fierce femme fatale group of people with technology that can literally rewire your brain and destroy your organs without even making any incision in. It's obviously the Department of Defense. Apparently the Department of Defense has problem with pedophilia, meaning that they have a lot of pedophiles in these agencies, to the point that in 2018 they were ranked for being top tier, where they try to counter top tier for trafficking the most child porn in the United States, meaning that they were using DoD computers. Let me repeat that. Using Department of Defense computers. Let me repeat that again. Using the Department of Defense computers while using the Department of Defense network to traffic, access, share child pornography. So much so that they were ranked as one of the largest network for trafficking child porn. This is in 2018. With all due respect in life, the humiliating reality that the entity in charge of manipulating your brain and doing these things to you actually has a serious issue that is disgusting. To the point where to try to make it look like they're trying to do something, we passed this bill where we're going to try to be more... we're going to police this. They're going to police their own computers a little bit better, their network. So this amount of child porn trafficking within the DoD network and DoD computers can be limited. It's insane. That alone, that piece of information here just destroys them. This information alone is like, our children, right? Yeah, from these entities, right? Okay. It's like, let me just say this again. Imagine you working in an office somewhere. And let's not even talk about child porn. Let's just talk about regular porn. You start using their computers to watch regular porn using their internet network. It's insane, right? You know you'll be busted in 2 seconds. These people at the DoD use the DoD computers, right, from the Pentagon to download child porn, access it, and share it, and using the DoD network. So much so that they're ranked in the top tier. You understand how crazy that is? When I see this out loud, these people are trying to counter what I just said. It's insane. It means that there's so much of it, and they're so nonchalant about it, that this has been okay. Does it mean perhaps there's a lot of pedophiles in these agencies, in these entities? With all due respect, this on its own is deadly. And to validate me, these literal articles about finally, hopefully, this is going to limit the amount of child porn. By the way, the DARPA, even DARPA, so you have this information, you're going to hear that. Now, this program is supposed to make me think it's like this femme fatale is horrible. We are some kind of femme fatale feminists without money and this trash. You know, the DARPA has been working on ways to alter the mind since the 60s. They have a whole project called Pandora Project in the 60s where they're using electromagnetic radiation or frequencies to try to see how they can alter the mind. In the fucking 60s. In the fucking 60s. So you know where this comes from. Second of all, these people who talk about mapping have these issues. But, guess what? All along, there's been the same tactics they've been using. There's been men, women coming together under bioethics, saying, hey, me and my young child are being used in this fashion. We're being tortured in this fashion. My young child and I have been damaged psychologically and physically. It's nasty. But hey, look at this. I should block it out. Let me go into their fantasy, the way they put things together to try to make me accept this thing. It doesn't end there. Today, man, the testimonials of women being tortured, you will not miss those. Not too long ago, I found a new testimony. There's so many of them. If he didn't, I can easily find a bunch of women talking about how they're being tortured sexually. It's just too much. That alone, this woman, you're going to hear, Megan, her testimony is so sad. It's so sad. It's like sad. But it's the same stories. I woke up again. They burned my genitals. It was painful. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I can feel it happening again today. My genitals are being burnt. Sometimes they burn me and I go into shock because the pain. Look at this person over there trying to counter that. Turn into children. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, my brain. It's like, I know. Like, this is the horrible things I'm going to go through. But I'm telling you, I'm putting something onto you that you could have lived with that. And I gotta say, karma can come in different fashion, huh? And they don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. But it can show up in different version. As you are being God, doing horrible things to me. Be careful. Something can come to you naturally, organically. But it's okay. Let's not be spiritual. I just want to make sure that they don't escape into their fantasy as they do these foul things to people. Or doing that to me, thinking that, because we're involved in this, is different. No. Because it's obviously a government entity doing this. And you being a woman does not make you change the reality of things. It's so disgusting how they've been using their gender. And you see this, and they talk like, when they talk like that, it's like, and they talk is, it's rape. Like, really? You're involved in a program where rape is such a commonly utilized tactic to break down people, that this man says it like that. I don't care if I repeat myself 1 trillion times. This is the things I want you to always know that I know. And say, he's crazy. I'm very crazy. Listen to how crazy this person is going to say this. Listen how crazy I am, but listen to that. Listen. I'm so crazy I made this person say that. Next to these people, you'll see the perps that live around me. They're the one participating 24/7. Look. I will never forget the reality of what I mean, and I understand the reality of it. That means my life is destroyed. That's what happens. These people are like, oh, you're destroyed. It's like, the second you put in this program, it's over. And these people put me in this program, and that's what they expected. Now you come in, you're excited about me destroyed. Of course I'm destroyed. What do you think? I was going to destroy you guys? I was going to destroy the government? I was going to destroy DoD? What? Now, you're going to hear all the horrible things they do to women, the sexual torture, and understand these people there are trying to make me think that this is a different program. No, you are tied, associated to this in this cowardly way. These people talking to me, interacting with me via V2K, fierceness. The fierceness of the fierce. You see who is talking? Oh my gosh. The cowardly of the coward. And it's always so cruel. It's so easy to be cruel when they do the things they do, the way they do their things. But I'm so thankful because they're like, oh, no, it's not thanking. And then you hear, oh, something happened to me. It's like, okay, what happened, God? What happened? You were so God 2 seconds ago. Why you are sick now? Okay. Let's go die. And me, the trash, I love to put that in their face. For me, it's a way to just like put them back to the reality. Say Roy Moore in a way I can hear. You can't, huh? You better time it right. You better say it when I don't know you're saying. But let's try this again. As I'm saying that, I'm paying attention to the V2K and saying Roy Moore. No, apparently this is insane. Target individual, I've been validated. These people are just bottom feeders. It's so good to see how low life they are while trying to make themselves be these gods. Because when they interact with you via V2K, oh my gosh, you hear this in these projected voices. It's projection. They via this technology, and you see them changing the tone of their voices, try to sound these mystical beings. And I'm like, hey, mystical spirit that you are, say Roy Moore. Do you understand why for me these things is something that I enjoy and is a blessing? That as spiritual as powerful beings that they are, they're not. They're just losers. The government contract to interact with you, to disorient you, to push you into insanity. Cannot say Roy Moore. Tell me if this is not magical. For me, I look at this as blessings. I look at it as blessing. They say these things to me when I can't hear them, but everything else very clear. I'm so thankful that Roy Moore is something I can use to validate me as these people are low life and trash, just working for these pedophiles. To the point where this alleged pedophile, let me just say alleged, is something they say in such a careful way when they try to sound uncareful. This is magical. These women are all employed somewhere else, and I'm employed somewhere else, and these people are supposed to look at respectful. They get frustrated. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, but what do you think? You think I think that it's me against you? They become children. It's like, I know what this is about. There's nothing I can do. It's going to be horrible. But it's been horrible for these women. It's been horrible for these children. And me, I put this in their face. So they're going to try to push it. It has become in their mind where if we torture him so much more, then we're different. And I'm like, okay, I would die I'm going to put that in your face even more. Till I can't. When you see me scream, okay. This guy screaming, he knows the government put him in this program, made him scream, torture him, and they do that to women and children. This shit you see in front of you are involved in a program where babies as young as 2 weeks old can be tortured. I could say Roy Moore in their face. Quiet. find a way to say it in different ways. A child tried to say it. I don't know if you say it. Let me repeat it. I'm going to say it 3 times every time. Roy Moore, say it. Somebody said it while I was saying. I don't know if they say it. Try again. Roy Moore. Clearly. Once again, couldn't say it. Roy Moore. Maybe I do it 4 times just because they like the 4. Because you're going to hear what they do with 4-year-old. Roy Moore? No. Roy Moore. You understand? For me, it's been hard to live this life like anybody else. I understand. It's going to be bad. Do you understand how I embarrass these people by saying this name? Saying it, they are, that alone is something that they hate so much that they start talking about how my rectum is going to be pink. It's so disgusting. They get so complex about the fact they can't say it in this fashion that they start talking about, oh, you're going to be raped so bad. It's like, yeah, I understand. You can't say it. I'm embarrassing you, right? You're supposed to be God. And that is a name people make fun of and you can't even say it. But on top of that, I know you torture children. I know you torture women. I know the entities running this program. I feel pedophiles. These people here know that the entities running this program are filled with pedophiles, and you guys are manipulating people in these pedophilia ways. And on top of that, causing mass shootings. They know. Mass shootings. And they're like, oh, I did it. I was like, yeah, okay. Grown-ass woman like that. Start acting like a child because governmental entities are running this program. No, you did it. You did involve yourself in a program where they torture men, women, and children. They manipulate the brain in these ways. And some of the reality and the results of what you guys do is causing mass shooting. I'm just not capable of doing these things. But yes, you did it. You did involve yourself in a program where they cause mass shootings. It's very easy to do what you do. It's very, 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 very easy. Children can do what you do. But yes, you did it. And now you try to do something else. You try to make me think of something else in regard of you're not involved in a program where they do these things. But I'm going to embarrass you. Because even that has been said. That they try to create a facade. Try to make you believe that this is anything but a massive government doing that. But some next door neighbor, 14-year-old kid. In every way, they've been countered by reality. To the point where they bring up random shit. Random as fuck. But it's okay. I get to see that before whatever happens to me. You hear this stress like, nah, we mapped it. These pedos and top tier pedophiles talk about mapping. Using these childlike people and using these people who turn into clowns and children. Grown-ass women. Now, let's start with the torture of these women. Yes, these women are going to talk about how the government is burning their genitals. Yes, these people did it. They did involve themselves in a program where they do that to women. Very much so. They know that. Their job today is to counter that. And be like, no, it's going to be their asshole. It's like, okay. It's going to be their asshole. You are involved in a program that torture this woman's private part. Listen to this.
Hey, I just woke up after a pretty rough night. The same thing happened last night as the night before, which was whenever I was trying to go to sleep, the private parts of my body began being burned again, and a lot of strange things. I've been doing some research, I guess what it's called, organized stalking. I'm called a targeted individual. But the abuse last night was pretty extreme. I can feel it's going to be the same again today. Already on the harming of the private parts of my body. I don't really know what to do. I tried to go to a doctor to get some kind of pain medicine because what actually happens to me, what is happening to me is my actual physical body is being burned. So it causes me to go into shock, and it's excruciatingly painful. And I have my limitations on the type of the duration and length of pain that I can handle. So it was a couple of weeks ago, I tried to go to the hospital, and they, I talked about military proprietary systems that are used, like, I guess essentially drone technology, which is just manipulating and changing something without touching it or being present. And suddenly there was a man standing outside of my hospital room. I asked him what he was doing there, and he said that I needed to stay in my room. And I asked why, and he said that essentially they wanted to keep an eye on me for a while. And I was like, okay, for how long? And he was like, well, we haven't decided that yet. And I was like, all right, well, I'm leaving. But it definitely felt like if I talk about what's happening to me, that I'm being retaliated against. And I know the logical mind is like, well, everyone can't be involved. But it seems that, I don't know, if the government has the right to watch and the proper paperwork, just walk right in and take over a hospital. And it seems that that is a very real reality in a lot of capacities of the things that I've faced. So today, just kind of just feeling some pretty general fear about my own safety, because the government's burning the private parts of my body. Sometimes it feels like a laser.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Buckner, and I have been a targeted individual for a very long time. The things I have experienced due to being targeted, they have been unreal. But however, I can personally attest that this is very real indeed. My life has been destroyed in every possible way, and every day has been a struggle for me. I am very grateful to be before you today due to Amy Anderson's due diligence and to everyone else involved. I thank you, council members, for giving us targeted individuals a chance to speak and to be heard. And I pray that these atrocities will soon be brought to an end. But we need your help. Thank you.
Injustice.
You mean as far as the Justice Department failing me?
Well, in terms of your being a victim.
You mean what I'm feeling?
Yeah, explain a little bit to me how you perceive yourself as being.
I have actual photographs of burns on my body. When I went to my doctor, the response was, how do I know you didn't do that to yourself? How do you even address that? I've passed 2 psychological evaluations. Not one, but 2. The one physician said, you're mentally sound as a bell. He said, I don't have any idea what's going on with you. When I go to sleep, when I go to try to sleep, I feel like I'm being lit up like a Christmas tree. I feel every cell in my body just bouncing out of my body. I can't even describe it. I get electric shock of my rectum. I get electric shock of my nose. I've woken up with burns on the end of my tongue. I've had burns on the palms of both of my hands. I vibrate. I can barely hold a piece of paper without quivering. Does that answer your question?
I'm trying to find what's the source of the...
The source of the Defense Department. She worked on the global mapping of that system. Worked for the Defense Department. She worked on the global mapping of that system. And when I told her what I was going through, all she could say was, you're on your own. Well, I figured that out. If you would please, I urge you to pass this. I realize you can't enforce it, but if you would pass it, it might give other communities the courage to do the same thing and show our Defense Department we are not the enemy. We are not to be attacked. We are not terrorists. Most of us are defenseless women.
Anja Lewis, and I'm a targeted individual from Baltimore, Maryland. My story may sound disjointed. I'm trying to keep it within the minute and a half. I worked as a legal secretary at Hogan and Hartson in Washington, D.C. It is now called Hogan Lovells. Attorney Jan McDavid made a client mistake that she tried to blame on me. I then refused to work for Miss McDavid. Shortly thereafter, strange and inexplicable events occurred on my job, and after being fired, followed me to my home and to all my travels. Attorney Christopher J. Hagan, formerly of Hogan and Hartson, Mr. Samuel Conrad, he's a retired security administrator of Hogan and Hartson, and Robert Johnston, who is the current firm administrator of Hogan Lovells, are responsible for my targeting. I believe to protect Miss McDavid's reputation, a phone call was made to whom and why they did this to me. I truly just speculate. Gang stalking and harassment was used to implement this non-consensual biotechnology application that is being used on me. I now experience involuntary limb movements. I receive stingings. I get pains to my head, to my abdomen, to my vaginal area, and to my anal area. I am receiving from a language that I read concerning this technology. It is called Medusa, developed by the Navy. It's being used on me. I get burning on my lower legs and my ankles. I get ringing in my ears that's pitched. It's like they pitch it. I get pulsing sensations in my body. I get an electrical current, an electrical sensation that goes up and down through my body and can be isolated to different parts of my body. I get severe tingling on the soles of my feet. I'm almost done. It's almost like being electrocuted, and the first time I experienced this was walking into a bank. I get buzzing sensations on the soles of my feet and individual toes. I also get facial manipulations, just to name a few of the things that happen to me. I feel as though I am being roboticized. These are very strange occurrences, and I would like for all the targeted individuals in this room to stand up and to show yourself. My story is similar to a lot of these people.
To a paper from Professor McCoy at the University of Wisconsin on no-touch torture. He talks about a total assault on all senses and sensibilities: auditory, visual, tactile, temporal, temperature, and survival, refined through years of practice. Sensory disorientation relies on a mix of sensory overload and sensory deprivation via banal procedures, isolation, then intense interrogation, heat and cold, light and dark, noise and silence, for a systematic attack on all human stimuli. I've been a human subject for experimentation for almost 2 years, and I've contacted Dr. Hall. I stand with a very large group. Excuse me, I'm very nervous, but I'm very tired of having my rights taken away. And thank you for hearing me, and thank you.
I also experience what is referred to as anything electronic. They have even locked me out of my office building that uses an electronic key. It is often very difficult and an immense battle just to even sit on the toilet to go to the bathroom. Not only because of the bowel and bladder manipulation, but also because of the frequent severe sexual assaults on the genitals, my butt and anus, shaking, vibrating, and rocking my body back and forth, and forced eyeball movements, and phantom touch sensations, doing rubbing sensations, etc.
Used, I mean,
if you talk to the victims, the PIs, one of the worst breakdowns, and it's pretty common. I think I can say the word simulated rape and forced orgasm.
You can say anything you want. This is the internet.
Okay. And so simulated orgasms and rape is extremely common, and especially violating for women. They complain. And so simulated rape. Forced orgasm.
You can say anything you want. This is the internet.
And so simulated orgasms and rape is extremely common, and especially violating for women. They complain about that torture breakdown the most.
Organized stalking, electronic harassment, microwave torture, V2K abuse, and I'm asking you to help us end this crime against humanity, which has impacted men, women, children all around the world.
Hi, I'm Wan from Malaysia. My family are targeted individuals. We are victims of cyber torture. And I will not give up. I will fight to the end.
And I'm a victim of organized
We need this to stop.
electronic harassment. And I'm speaking to you on International Targeted Individual Day. I live in the U.S., in Illinois, and I'm a victim of organized
We need this to stop.
electronic harassment, microwave torture.
I've been targeted for 9 years.
24/7.
Please become more aware of this crime and those that the crime is being committed against. We need your support and help in ending this crime.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown. I'm a targeted individual who is living in New Zealand, but my targeting began in California. I'm an American citizen, and the targeting continues in New Zealand. I'm making this video in remembrance of Targeted Individual Day, our third annual Targeted Individual Day. And I'm asking that every honest-hearted human being open their eyes to a crime.
My name is Jeanette. I am 56 years old and I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I am a victim of covert electronic harassment and torture. I am a targeted individual.
Wishes to hand down.
Why? Because it hurts. I need help. I need you guys to come get me. It's brutally painful. I have a house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, first floor, second floor, 2 garage, backyard, land, everything. Can't live in my house. My neighbors are shooting direct energy weapons through my house. I hold my heart like this. You know why? Because it hurts. I need help. I need you guys to come get me. Come get me. Oh, Lord, because I think I'm dying. I'm making this video
in an attempt to expose this horrific nightmare.
Hello, I'm making this video to honor the third annual Targeted Individual Day. That's August 29th, 2020. My name is Linda Marie Sharp in Mendocino County, California, United States. I am a targeted person and have been for over 12 years. I am electronically tortured by directed energy weapons.
Hi, my name is Lisa Davis, and I'm in Duluth, Minnesota.
In a way, I'm very sorry to address you like this because I think that what you're doing is very admirable. But I'm here to represent this other group, and I am also targeted, and this is my story. My name is Sandra Field. I'm an architect, recipient of Who's Who of Women in America Achievement Award, and have run a successful business for over 28 years. My life and livelihood have been compromised for the last 11 years by being attacked by electromagnetic radiation torture and by organized stalking. I cannot live in my rent-stabilized apartment in New York City as a result of this torture. I'm currently staying in motels and friends' houses in the last year.
Mr. Brian Wrong? Miss Anya Briggs?
My name is Anya Briggs, and I am a private citizen and resident of New York City. I have been and continue to be experimented on against my will and without my permission as a human test subject and as a targeted individual forced into trauma-based mind control programs. Because of this ongoing experimentation, torture, and abuse since 2008 and before, I have endured the following physical and psychological symptoms: extreme, debilitating, and chronic fatigue, weakness, and dizziness for days and weeks at a time, lack of motor control, as well as the sensation of being physically controlled by an unseen force,
My left arm occasionally experiences pain and discomfort from an object of unknown origin moving under my skin and being activated somehow. I have an unusual dental filling of unknown origin on the side of one of my back upper right teeth and no memory of having this procedure done. And I have x-ray printouts and a signed affidavit from my dentist stating this. Said dental filling causes me sharp pain, discomfort, and sensitivity. I have experienced extreme itching, burning, and pain in my right leg that turned into an intense bright pink and then disappeared completely after several minutes, and I have photographs of this happening in real time. I have had a stretched uterus, and yet I have never consciously, and to my knowledge, been pregnant. I have had equidistant sores that have appeared on both of my subscapularis muscles at the same time. I have been drugged. I've been abducted from my home. I've had guns pointed at my head. I've had death threats. And much, much worse, believe it or not, by being in these programs and experiments. The after effects of this have made me socially avoidant most days, and it is extremely hard to establish relationships with people I can trust as a result of these abominations, and I thank the committee for hearing my statement.
Thank you. Now, this can go on, right? I can bring more testimonials, but you kind of get the understanding what they do to women. It's easy to see a trend here. I mean, literally the trend is said to you by somebody who talked to multiple samples. If I start saying it the way they say it, that there is sexual torture being applied to a lot of women, and this is not only happening to men but women and children all around the world. And you're going to hear a lot of testimony of women, and maybe more than men. That's perhaps because the women are more vocal about it. But you're going to hear a lot of sexual torture. And you have people like that trying to counter reality. Now, listen, I'm employed by people like them. And so at this point, sometimes I'm like, I don't even need to get this back and forth. You're just looking for a reason to try to create your fantasy. You're dumbing yourself down to the point where you are trying to block out the reality of what this is about. That first testimony, you clearly heard this woman say the government is printing my genitals. At one point you hear like, yes, the Department of Defense, my cousin worked for the Department of Defense. She said that, when I told her that, she said, you're on your own. And she knows, she calls out, the DoD is doing this to us, and a lot of us are defenseless women. So it's clear where it's coming from. Whatever's happening to me, this is the reason why. And listen, I'm bringing that to their face 24/7. But in fact, what they're trying to do, right? They try to vilify me or try to bring up what they're doing. We're avenging for this woman. I'm like, what? I saw somebody say something about a tent. And they try to make me think, oh, I remember you and Brittany. And man, Brittany, thankfully, Brittany is somebody I was able to get hold of with. She's living her best life, doing her whatever she's doing. Life is good. I'm like, really? You care so much about Brittany? Look, listen to what you do to this women. Or what you involve yourself into that does these things to women. You did that. You did involve yourself in a program where they do these horrible things to women. You know that. You associated yourself with something that can do these horrible things to women. And some of these people doing that to me currently have done that to women. But the truth is, they're opportunists. This is led by the government, and they're using technology that is extremely sophisticated. And the incentives are not only financial, but others. So they're doing that because they have these incentives that they want to enjoy for. But please understand, you involved in something that does these things to women will never make me see you in anything but somebody who's an opportunist involved in a program that destroys the life of this woman and causing the atrocities of this woman, because you're involved in a program that does this to women. And also then I'm supposed to be like, oh, no, you guys are different because you're women? What? Listen, they know what they involve themselves in. People involved in a program that literally destroys the life of women in this fashion and torture them and rape them. I'm supposed to be like, oh, no, you guys are different. It's so obvious. But I know that. I put that in their face over and over and over because I don't want them to escape. Because they have this ability to block our reality. I know the reality of things. They know the reality of things. I'm one of many subjects that are being used by the government to develop this technology. The subject consists of men, women, and children. Some of these people doing that to me have done that to women, even children. These people participating in my targeting means that they connected themselves to a program that tortures women. These atrocities and atrocious ways of torturing women. These atrocities. and then find ways to try to validate them, not even validate, try to justify what they're involved in. You delusional trash. First of all, I'm never going to let you live that fantasy. I would never want to be associating myself to something that does these horrible things to women. And I'm so thankful I didn't even have the option. Thank you. Well, I'll be like, oh, I did that, huh? I did that. No, what I did is just involve myself in a program that does these things to women. This person here is doing that to women and children too. Never. Listen, I know in my life I've never impacted anybody in this negative way. I never destroyed or involved myself in something that is destructive to the life of women and children. I can look at myself in the mirror and say, thank God I didn't involve myself in that. It doesn't take much to do with these horrible things to do to us. This trash are nobodies in PJs and don't even have to wear pants to do these things to us. Just take comfort as wear and destroy the life of people's life, because the Department of Defense is running this program, and the sophistication of this technology means that they can do the most horrible things, the most atrocities you can imagine, sitting there doing nothing, but just like these people over there, away from any danger. So I see them for the trash they are. You never make me feel guilty when I know what you guys do to women. You nasty people like them deserve things that I am not capable of doing. For me, when I see them and then to try to be, we're doing like you you saw this thing. Oh God, this poor woman, whose genitals are so burned that she's going to shock you. You're you talking about Brittany, the woman who's living her best life, while you're involved in this program where you try to counter the fact this woman is literally saying, my genitals are being burned so much that I'm going to shock. Never. Whatever acting you do in front of me, please don't do this. Please. Yes, you do that. You do involve yourself in a program that does that to women. And I understand it's not to protect women. As you clearly can see why I'm saying that. It's not clear. It's clearly not to avenge women, because you can clearly hear why I'm saying that. Now let's talk about the babies. Oh, God. I want to start off with this last woman you heard, the first woman you heard about her abuse consisting of harming her private parts. Let me bring that up again.
I'm called a targeted individual. But the abuse last night was pretty extreme. I can feel it's going to be the same again today. Already on the harming of the private parts of my body.
You heard what she meant by this harming of her private parts and the abuse she goes through. Matter of fact, she finishes up by saying this.
So today, just kind of just feeling some pretty general fear about my own safety. Because the government's burning the private parts of my body. Sometimes it feels like a laser.
Now, I brought up the fact that they do these horrible things to children. You know, when they talk about abuse, talk about me as a child. What I did as a kid is something I did to myself as a kid in middle school. But the reality is they abuse children. And the abuse consists of what this woman says. Let me tell you that you're going to hear once again, and I'm going to bring this specific one first, the 4-year-old and 5-year-old children with Down syndrome being harmed in the private part, and this is the reaction. Then you're going to hear the other type of torture, which consists of suffocations and whatnot. Listen to this.
And I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, ow. I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. One session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again.
I just wanted to start off with the clear sexual torture these kids experience when they put in this program. But the torture is just more than sexual. It's all kind of terrible, horrible things. And to hear this trash involving this, and like, I did that. Yes, once again, you did involve yourself in a program led by governmental entities like the DoD, where they're using human subjects. And the human subject consists of children as young as 4 years old and younger, where sexual torture, or should I call it, the harm of their private part is being applied. If it's burning or laser, whatever, but they're harming the private part of even these children. But the tortures, the abuse are more than just sexual. Listen to this.
Speech language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. One day I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today. There is new work for the Commission for Human Subject Protection on our shores. And please give us a dramatic response, Susan. And please give us a congressional hearing. Thank you.
And have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss, and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner's syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner's syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured. Recently, I lost complete time. I exhibited the flashing lights. My 9-year-old son Dylan complained about the lights. You will often hear that vision is something that is greatly affected with this type of torture.
I mean, what I try to do is bring up reality. It's funny how this purpose try to be like, oh, I missed by not putting this point together. Okay, yes, I missed so much. It's obvious you protect kids. It's obvious that you don't abuse children. It's obvious that you are avenging. It's obvious that you are not a threat to children. As I'm saying that this is the stimulation, but we're going to get to that. Because the reality is, this is what they do to even kids. I mean, families are tortured as a whole. Matter of fact, here, listen to this testimony of this woman. She goes through all the things she goes through. Like, she talks about what she goes through as a target individual, but this is not only happening to her, but her family members.
These crimes is happening in America. This is a domestic problem, not only international. The victims is not being just victimized individually. We are being victimized, and our family members as well.
So they do these horrible things, and the truth is, we're just test subject. As much as that it's easy to get lost into how horrible and evil this whole thing is, there's a purpose behind this. What they do is evil, is horrible, and any participating that choose to be involved in a program that can do that to even children, you understand what they are. But it's easy to do what they do, so you can't even look at them as, oh, these people are so monsters for participating. It's so easy to partake. I mean, they designed this thing to make it very simplistic for anybody to participate, and very incentivizing and normalizing things that are crazy, to the point where this perps here, they know obviously I'm not much smarter than them. It's of course clear that this is coming from governmental entities. It's just too obvious. It's obvious that this is a program where they're utilizing human being and developing technology. It's obvious that what is happening is they're using test subjects that are human beings, and then doing things to us using this technology that can do so much sophisticated things remotely. For example, right now I'm sitting down, I can feel my organs, just something in my lower stomach area just flowing, right? I can feel that. I can feel my stomach literally like breaking down. Every time I eat, I know that's perhaps something I shouldn't be doing. So I understand what it is. For example, this is a whole system that you're going to hear. But let me go back now that you clearly hear what they do to women, clearly hear what they do to children. Look at this purpose. They try to create this facade to make you believe this manipulation. For example, let me say this. This technology can manipulate your thought process. They can manipulate your perception. This is so sophisticated. The torture, like this woman said, Catherine Nestor, is not only physiologically, but psychologically, because of the manipulation they can make you experience. The experience you can be forced to experience because of they manipulate your thoughts, your perception, your memory, the aspect that are mental, that's psychological, can be manipulated. It's funny. 2 seconds ago, something just happened, and what they do, these people do, it's like they try to utilize fear to try to box in a false reality. For example, not too long ago, I remember what's happening to me today is this: they manipulate the thought process and create personalities. They create a persona, literally, and then try to create that persona into the way you react to things, to people. And for me, I've been very vocal. They do this nasty manipulation where they aim those reactions that you are forced to react to the way you're supposed to, the way they force you to experience things and react. And they aim that toward children of all ages, babies to older kids, right? The more disgusting part is when they do the younger kids. The less disgusting is when they do older kids. It's still annoying, but it's not as disturbing as when they do that to the babies. And they want you to identify with this manipulation. That's why these people here like to create that facade. Because once you get manipulated, they want to be there. It's like, look at you in all different ways. You pay now with this. And oh my gosh, you mapped you with this. When the truth is, they are literally aware that your brain is being rewired. You're being created into somebody else. It's part of this personality implantation. Where they implant you with this personality that's falsified. And then try to gaslight you into accepting this. But everything has been said. For example, and let me bring this example because it just happened again. They try to bring up what they did to me not too long ago. I think last November or something like that. Which is, they do that all the time. That I wear a body cam for a reason, right? It's because my perceptions and reality are two different things. What's happening in my brain can be manipulated whenever. Having a body cam helps put things together, but helps put things together. But they can still manipulate me when I look at the camera, the video, right, or the picture. But at least it helps a little bit better. But when you don't even have no reference, you can even play with your imagination even more. I'm going to the elevator. I press the first floor. As I'm going down, the elevator comes up. I'm about to walk out, and I see two people coming in. I was like, oh, and I thought it was the first floor. The truth, it was the 7th floor. It was, and I thought it was the first floor. And as soon as I'm about to look down, I was like, oh my gosh, this is probably a kid. So I look up. Right, it was like a teenager or something. At least that's what it looks like based on the shortness of it all. I was like, oh, that's probably a kid. I look up, but before that, when I was about to step out, I was like, oh, I didn't know. I forgot that. Remember, you gotta stay in guard all the time. These people are trying to get you because this kid wanted to be seen. This teenager, right? I'm giving her like in the 16, 17 age group. Right, at least based on the height. That's how I'm not even look at them to even figure out. I don't even want to look at anything. I'm like, she's short like that. She's probably like a child. So as I'm about to step out, and I see people coming, and I was about to apologize. Oh, sorry. I was like, oh no, to look up. And they tried to they wanted me to look at her. It's like, oh nope, look up. This is a kid. They wanted me to look at her so they can manipulate me to have the perceptions. I look up, but before that, I can see looking up that she's spraying herself up, like not spraying, but she just want her to be. She's spraying her arms, just like, look at me. I'm like, nope, look it up. And I know why you're doing that, because you want me to look at you, and then they can manipulate me. They can create perception manipulation. I won't be surprised if they can control even your eyesight. So they can just like, oh, zoom in. So she had a sweater and everything else, but they can still create perceptions that's sexual, right? And so this is something they do, and I recognize it. You know what I do? To provoke them too. It's not even provocation, but they want it to stay inspired by this fantasy. They in the elevator, I pretend I'm on the call. I'm like, hey, yeah, this and that, and I start recording this. I'm like, these people here, there's a kid in this elevator. She wants me to look at her so they can do these perceptions and manipulations. I'm doing that there inside. They get frustrated. I can see this kid walk in front of me, and I'm looking up. I can see her try to like walk in this like womanly way, and in my brain they try to create perception. To see this kid try to walk in a way that's like, in their mind, what they think consider sexy is comical. Now, for me, they can manipulate me to have the perception, but it's just so weird to just like see this kid don't even know how to be a woman, just try to walk in this way. And I'm laughing. It's like, look at them. They even try to walk in this way. I'm recording and they know I'm talking about them. The guy who's there, he gets frustrated. He still want to act around. No, he's a robber. He says, clown. I'm recording. I'm speaking about it in front of me. But my purpose, what I'm trying to say is they are manipulating the thought process in the brain and create these personas that it's not. It's what they create. It's what they do to others too. They have these tactics of manipulate and rewiring and changing your perception and reactions. Then they have this trash here who's supposed to gaslight you into it. Matter of fact, right now, not only they gaslight me, I'm hearing these people who's like, I dare to frame you, and I'm not scared. I'm like, talk about scared of what's going to happen to them after they frame me. I'm like, yeah, you're going to have a great life. The best life. You see, it doesn't even sound right when I say it. But it's okay. I like to be a prophet for them. What I mean by a prophet, let me just say this. When I speak in these videos, I just want them to see how bottom feeders that they are. That the most basic thing, the most obvious thing to them is become this wise thing I said. As if it's a wisdom that come up from the... That it's obvious if a child is being told and being guided to say things like that, where he raped me, he did this, and you're supposed to act this way, and they are told to do this so they can be framing somebody. The future of this kid that implemented that is perhaps not the best. There is going to be some issues happening. Matter of fact, some of the perps are so it's so foul, because they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll get this kid the best psychiatrist. It's so nasty to even say that. And I know this bottom fears try to block out what I just said, because this is what it was said. And they left. I'm like, yep, you're right. We gotta get them the top of the top, huh? The top tier of psychiatrists, because this is not gonna be ending well for them. It's gonna come back one way or another, and it's gonna be bad. But watch me being a prophet. Because what they do is just get lost in my torture. He's going to lift you. He's going to slam you down. It's like, okay. And then I'll scream, I'll cry, I'll scream, I'll scream, I'll die, I'll get stabbed, and then I'll die. Okay, oof, done, over. Now, what happens to you? You don't want to go there, right? That's the mentality they have to have. Because in every ways, I've been validated that these people do these manipulations. And they're going to get theirs one way or another. But this is to be determined how. But in regard of how they manipulated psychologically and who's manipulating you, it's been validated. All right, you heard the torture of women, how grotesque they are. Torture children and how they grotesque about it. Now, these people, the psyops they try to create. Like I said, the government has been the government has been working on technology. And I'm talking about the Department of Defense. In this case, you're going to hear DARPA. Working on technology that can rewire the brain, that can manipulate the brain, that can alter the brain. They start working on it officially, and I give those big quotes, in the 60s, according to this Project Pandora, right? And I'm saying that because it could be before that. It's just been open for people to see that in that fashion, that in the 60s, there was some called Project Pandora, where they were using electromagnetic technology to see if they can alter the mind. In the 60s, alter the mind. Change somebody's mind since the 60s. Listen to this. Then, after you listen to that, you're going to start hearing people came in these bioethics meetings where you keep hearing people saying this thing, saying, this is what's happening in this country. They're using human beings all around the country and doing these things with this electromagnetic technology and this and that. And this is for the purpose of cognitive manipulation, control, behavior control. Then they have names for these things like EEG cloning, EEG heterodyning. That basically says not only they capture your neural network and monitor it, but they manipulate it and put it back in your brain to make you have the experience that they want you to experience. Then it goes further. This man, Robert Duncan, has been talking to thousands of targeted individuals. Thousands. He came up in 2014 with a book of like the symptoms, the things that they go through, which you're going to hear. But he says, listen, what they do is when they pipe in the voices, which they try to counter, when they pipe in the voices, they can then start manipulating the thoughts and control the mind. And then they have these things where they are rewiring the thought process. Me saying that they were trying to rewire to counter it with some other things. They're rewiring the thought process in the brain. And it's this offensive information warfare. And they're trying to find the deceptive tactics of breaking somebody down. And they're utilizing different human beings as test subjects from different races, different cultures, different gender to see what works and doesn't work. And what works is utilized, what doesn't work is updated. And this is what it's really about. It's the development of weapons. At least technology that is utilized as a weapon. Then you hear this man coming on the podcast say, okay, the future is going to be consisting more of like a cognitive warfare than anything else. We're talking about, forget about bullets and atomic bombs. This is more powerful than that. Controlling human beings and control them in a weaponized way, if it's a word. So what they're going to do? They're going to find programs, create programs to see how they can alter the mind. Personality in rebuilding in a negative way, no offensive way, to break you down. Then you hear that, okay, listen, these common tactics to break down, some of that consists of pedophilia type of torture. You're going to hear this man who wrote this book called No Touch Torture, Robert Duncan. He went through 1,000 people that are target individual. Almost all of them said they implant child porn in people's brain via this technology called V2K, synthetic telepathy. You're going to hear what V2K is. This woman, say, they do the pedophilia type of torture. This transgender woman, say, they do this manipulation where they make me think in these pedophilia ways. This woman with her child, where they try to rewire me if I say her name. Say, they start doing this program perversion, first with animals, her dog. Then people, young people, and children. And then you're going to hear that DARPA has been working on this technology since the 60s. Listen to this.
My name is Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor from Texas. As I understand the memorandum from the president, it's for you to determine if current legislation is adequate in protecting individuals and if there's any ongoing experimentation. In reviewing the common rule, it's very obvious that there's a lot of loopholes to informed consent. All of the horrific experiments you've mentioned, Willowbrook, MK Ultra, radiation experiments, mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DoD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control. I've submitted a paper to you, and there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City.
Designed to interact with the human nervous system in order to remotely pick up on someone's neural network or EEG, and not only receive that and monitor it, but manipulate it and place it back into the victim to control their emotions or control their actions or bodily functions, for that matter. The other more recent term we have for that is EEG heterodyning or EEG cloning. The difference between EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning would be, let's say, me remotely receiving your EEG and then duplicating it and putting that in another person to give them your same thoughts or feelings or physical reactions. EEG heterodyning would be receiving your EEG, manipulating it to put it back inside your head to give us a desired physical reaction or emotional reaction.
You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, the eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control a brain? Most people don't believe that. Oh, you can't control me. I have my own free will. There's no way you can get to my soul. Well, sorry, that's not true.
That this person developed delusional disorder. This is a paranoid schizophrenia. But first of all, nobody develops paranoid schizophrenia in the 50s, in their 50s. This is, if you haven't developed it by 30, it's not. Then this technology exists. These nefarious programs exist. And it's hard to imagine for a person that why would you do something like this? But if you think about the new type of warfare,
cognitive warfare.
Exactly, it's a cognitive warfare. You don't have to kill people that you are fighting against. You can just degrade their brain. You can
you alter their minds.
Yeah, alter their minds.
Personalities.
And it's like
or voice to skull. This involves V2K or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
What is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing.
So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing. And then I said again out loud, "You'll never take my will, ASS." So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today, they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals.
So, you hear this common theme, right? As I'm saying that it's so nasty, they force me to get a reaction toward this baby. I'll get to that point, because the most disgusting part is who has lost their life because of these things. But to hear the where this come from is easy, it's clear. When you have validation of that nature, it's hard to block out the reality of who's really running this program.
1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day. Human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora.
Okay. I mean, how much more validation to figure out where this comes from? We're talking about DARPA working on technology of that nature since the 60s. It's just too much. It's just too much validation. And you hear the validation of how they alter the mind, how they manipulate and rewire the thought process. You have people like that who's supposed to counter that. That you shouldn't accept the reality that you're being manipulated in these ways, but because they look this way, you're not being manipulated. They are mapping you, this trash, and this very pedophilia-centric. As I said not too long ago, there was some kid I didn't actually see, but I know there was a kid there because I know what happened to this kid's father, which we're going to get to that point. Because they love to say we are at war, but the truth is they're not. We just test subjects, and unfortunately when it comes to death and people put in a circumstance like it's war, they're not mostly perps. They're just some innocent people dying, inclusive of the target individual, of course. But this pedophilia type of torture is disgusting. That's what they do to us. But something they've been trying to counter is the fact that, the Department of Defense have actual issues with pedophilia, as we're being manipulated in these disgusting ways to torment us, to break target individual down. The reality is the entities running this program, like DARPA and other DoD entities, have had issue with pedophilia. That's so much of an issue that a bill that's supposed to make it look like they're doing something about this issue was created in 2019. Listen to how disgusting those entities are. Let's start with the latest, the earlier stuff, and who they obviously caught with this nastiness.
Sensitive secrets, potentially making this. The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to be working, some of them, at high levels across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Others
come under investigation for links to the proliferation of graphic material called Project Flicker. Some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us to discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swan. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who were being recognized as the ones who were perpetrating this.
So Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is the co-author to this bill. She said this, quote, "The notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head-on." Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work, is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a Department of Defense office or it's the offices at RT America, where
Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable.
Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
to child pornography watchdog Internet Crimes Against Children Child Online Protective Services? The Defense Department network consistently ranks in the top tier of internet service providers for trafficking child pornography.
So there is a clear issue here, an issue that shows the nastiness of these entities working on this technology. But this to me is validation. The reason why they use this particular type of approach is meant to break us down. But the funny part is, like, they want you to identify with this manipulation. Well, they actually work for governmental entities where this issue is truly an issue, where this bill is supposed to kind of help out and limit this issue with this grotesque, obvious issue. And it's not really fixing the issue. All it says is like, hey, you pedophiles, stop using our computers to download child porn. Go do your things on your own computers. That's it. And the question this man said was like, why are they letting so many pedophiles when they know these people are pedophiles? Because we're talking about entities that do background check that are surreal. So they let these people in. We're talking about people working in the Pentagon. You think they don't go into their private computers and whatnot? Of course, they don't want to hire some kind of spy and things like that. So they check and see what kind of people they are. And you think they won't track these things? Of course, they let them work in there because they still think of them as assets. But what they don't like is the fact that they're using their computers to download child porn. And that's the issue. It's nasty. Well, as target individuals, they paint us in these ways. They manipulate us in these ways. Matter of fact, right now, they try to even counter the reality of what I just said to try to make me think, oh, you see, you're an asset. So you see, trash ass. Life is just repainted in different ways to reconstruct the reality that these people are the pedophiles. They are manipulating you. And the asset that I'm an asset now that's used to be manipulated in these disgusting ways. Now, this is how I'm going to wrap things up, because these people here want me to block another thing that's just very disgusting. The stimulation they made me have early on was the daughter of a victim from a mass shooting. I donated money to that kid, not to the family as a whole. It's a baby, a 2-year-old little girl who will never have her father or biological father, will never be there, because he was killed in a mass shooting from a target individual who lost his mind. Not the first and probably not the last mass shooting coming from a target individual, because what they do to us is crazy. Can push a man to find anger to the point of killing even innocent people. It's easy to be pushed to that level of aggression when you manipulate in these ways. They push you to kill yourself. If you're now suicidal, you're like, oh, okay, these people want me to kill myself. Let's go. I'll show you. I'm capable. I'm not going to go alone. Let me do this. Matter of fact, they end up killing people and then go and kill themselves. But it's like, just to pay them back, reimburse them. It's like, yeah, listen, you guys wanted to, before I go, let me take some of you. And it's easy to have this mentality. And some others did this more for like to bring awareness of what's happening to them. For example, you're going to hear the mass shooting of Myron May, which is the first one you're going to hear. This man, an actual attorney, a black attorney, non-violent, didn't even know how to shoot guns properly, because he ended up shooting up a college library. Thankfully, he doesn't know how to shoot well. Doesn't kill a single person. He does injure people. But in a library where there's a bunch of kids, he doesn't kill anybody. He hurts people by shooting them, but didn't kill any. End up dying, of course. But before that, he goes through what's happening to him, saying, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, this is happening to me, and this is why it's happening to me. Another person now, this person is Aaron Alexis. He knows how to use guns. He was a military guy before. So killing is something that was trained. He works at the Navy Yard. They let him go through security, armed security. You understand? They knew this was going to happen. They let that happen because at the end of the day, they want those results they want. What they want from us is better. If I decide to kill, they would love that. I know they know I'm not a killer, but they would love that. Oh my gosh. You know how much of a success it is? I know for a fact they will let me kill somebody. They will let me stab somebody here. For sure. For sure. Immediately after I do that, they will kill me, but they will let that happen. Do you know what it means? It means they control somebody who had no thoughts of even thinking about harming people, especially some of this weak, low life. Oh my gosh. What? And I know. There's been a time when I was like, hey, listen, I can do something to this person. They really will let me do it. I can feel it. I can stop this person. And they will let me. This bottom, look at her weak. Oh my gosh. They will let me do that. She's a perp. She's involved in harming me. They will let me do this. Immediately after doing this, of course, they come and act, right? But they will let that happen. They will be, matter of fact, they will enjoy, they will love this. I know they will love this. What? This is the best way to wrap things up. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got this man to kill some weak, low-life trash look like them. He will never even think about anything harmful. Matter of fact, he will make him feel weak to even try to do these things. To kill somebody like them. We got to that point. We made a person do that. This is a success beyond success. This is what they want from us, target individual. They want us to do things that we will never do. Inclusive of killing others. Especially others who are very fragile looking, some weak, low life like them. I know. Because I see what this is all about. If they can drive me to my death by doing that, man, I'm telling you, these people think... You know how much of a godly feeling that gives them? And the level of power that means? I made a man kill some weak, low-life perp. This man is not a killer, far from a killer, doesn't even... will never think... I control this person to do... That level of power and control is what this is all about. But these people pushing people to kill will not be the one being killed, by the way. They will not be the one. They'll watch, observe it. Just go through it and it's like, wow, this is why, wow, that's what we got, wow. I understand the reality of what this is about. It's about the control of a human being. Control them to do things they will never do. Now listen to this. Myron May starring, and as I'm saying that, immediately they try to make me get some reaction toward the kid that the face is even blurred. It's just crazy. But starting off with the mass shooting that happens in Florida, and then we can move from the Navy Yard, and then we're going to hear another mass shooting that just killed a lot of people, 18, and I know it's a target individual. But let's start off with this Myron May guy.
About his time spent here in New Mexico.
As sick as this may sound, I've even had stalkers follow me into church while I was in Las Cruces and in Houston. I've had stalkers follow me into church to harass me.
May had worked as a prosecutor in Las Cruces just weeks before the shooting. In his last words, May speaks of his paranoia and coins himself as a targeted individual who's been a victim of stalking and harassment. He talked about a trip to Houston where he said cars would drive by and honk their horns every 10 minutes to keep him on the edge and agitated.
Father, forgive me for what I'm about to do. Forgive me for all of my sins, past sins, present sins, any future sins.
Why? Was a mentally unstable individual. This shotgun is the primary murder weapon. On it, he etched a number of carvings, including "End to the Torment," "Better Off This Way," and "My ELF Weapon." Alexis had been hearing voices and believed he was being bombarded by microwaves, something naval authorities knew about.
There are multiple indicators that Alexis held a delusional belief that he was being controlled or influenced by extremely low frequency, or ELF, electromagnetic waves.
And in his computer files, the FBI found this.
A document retrieved from the electronic media stated, quote, "Ultra-low frequency attack is what I've been subject to for the last 3 months. And to be perfectly honest, that is what has driven me to this."
And so on what should have been a routine day, Alexis killed 12 people. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. Diane, they never had a chance, and still no answers as to why so many red flags were missed.
As you say, so many red flags. Thank you.
That was Aaron and Alexis at the end, and you heard all the red flags. Obviously, they could have stopped this man. And he killed 12 people. Now, the latest mass shooting is one they tried to make it look like it's not a target individual, but it's obviously a target individual. This man killed 18 people. And the most scary part is this interview that he had with cops, because he was saying that he was hearing people calling him a pedophile. Sounds familiar? And he said that wherever you go to workplace and this and that, they will say these crazy things. And he said these people, his coworkers now, were saying this thing, calling him this and that. Before this happened, listen to him. This is Robert Card, right? Before the mass shooting that happened in October, late October or so, this is what happened. And I want you to hear how familiar this is going to sound again. It's so nasty and so scary at the same time that this man was just there. They're being pushed to that level, and they knew this was going to happen. Listen to him talking to cops, because this happened.
What do you mean by that? It's happening at work? At work, I had to quit my job, go to a different place to try to leave it, and then it's there as well. So, what were they saying at work? And everywhere. So yeah. What do you mean by that? A lot of sense. What do you mean by that? It's happening at work? At work, I had to quit my job, go to a different place to try to leave it, and then it's there as well. So, what were they saying at work? Huh? What kind of stuff were they? Yeah, I'm a pedophile. I like little boys. I like little girls. And what kind of stuff were your friends talking about? Same exact stuff. It's the same thing. Do the people where you work know the people that you serve with? They live in Lewiston. They're all somewhat close areas. But do they know each other? Do they know each other? I don't know. So when you say you hear bits and pieces, how do you hear the bits and pieces? Just thrown in conversations, or when I turn my back. Oh, so you're... Then I go and confront them, and yeah. Okay. I know it's happening, because one guy at work actually had the nuts to say, yeah.
So this man ended up killing 18 people. It's funny as I'm saying that, somebody's like, you're a pedophile. You see what the entities they work for, right? He's always projecting reality. But let me just say how obvious this man is a target individual. Listen to this woman who's a target individual, and she talks about what she deals with, her and her mother, that everybody's involved in this thing. And even her mother, her job start, they say some crazy stuff about her. Listen to her.
Pinpoint one person, you know, it's everybody, it's all the time, you know, and so it discredits your character and you know that it's not. Don't see a psychologist or psychiatrist. Most of the time they're involved too. Your police are involved, your firemen, ambulance, you know, people at hospitals, you know, they're all involved. And it's unfortunate that we live in a society that gets a kick out of doing people like that. But it is what it is. The only thing you can do is stay strong and focus on the people you love. You know, I was lucky enough to have my mother who was going through the same thing that I was going through. They started saying all kind of crazy stuff to her jobs, and
start saying some crazy stuff to her mother, who's also a target individual at her job. And they left work, they left, you know, trying to find something somewhere where it will not happen, but it happened wherever they went. So she was like, that was a mistake, because this was going to follow you everywhere. Now listen to what this man ended up doing after talking to these cops. He ended up killing 18 people.
In me last week. From New York Times, I'm Michael Barbaro. This is The Daily. Today, the mass shooting that occurred in Maine last week, killing 18 people, was the country's deadliest of the year. It may also have been one of the most avoidable.
Around others wounded. The first 911 call coming in around 7 p.m. from a local bowling alley that was hosting a youth night for a kids' bowling league.
We have an active shooter. We have multiple injuries.
Authorities releasing these surveillance images showing the suspect they're looking for. His name is Robert Card, and he's pictured armed with an AR-15 style rifle.
Mr. Card is considered armed and dangerous, and police advise that Maine people should not approach him under any circumstances.
Megan Hutchinson and her 10-year-old daughter Zoe were at the bowling alley. Zoe's leg grazed by a bullet.
I never thought I'd grow up and get a bullet in my leg. Why? Like, why do people do this?
After allegedly shooting several people inside the bowling alley, Card is believed to have traveled about 4 miles to a local...
So, yeah. Robert Card was a target individual, and he was going through the same things a lot of target individuals deal with, where we are being called in defamation ways and disturbing ways. And he was hearing people calling him these nasty things, and it was getting the spotlight that you usually don't get normally, but all of a sudden it started happening. And it's funny, this woman said the same thing. It's like you, and he said that also in this, you know, I stopped the video, but he says, like, I'm usually like almost invisible, and also I have this spotlight, and people are looking at me this way and that way, just like the typical things. And yes, ended up killing 18 people. Another mass shooting from a target individual who was pushed to that level, going through the same spectrum. And it's funny, in my brain, they tried to combat the cops, where they like, yes, people knew that he was being tormented in this fashion. They went along, and you heard something that they said very clearly. This could have been the most avoidable mass shooting, just like the one with Aaron Alexis. All the red flags, and they let that happen. All of it. So obvious. They let that happen. because this is what they're trying to push people to do. Now, I'm not capable of doing what these men do. I don't even want to have to be capable to do that. I don't want to. I literally was praying. He's like, God, give me strength to not do anything harmful of that nature. Let these trash die the way they need to die. They'll get their death. I don't need to do that. Give me strength. It's easy to get that angry, but give me strength. They will get their death the way they need to die. But before that, I'm sure you want them to go through certain things that you reserve for them. It's not for me to do that. For me, give me strength to go through whatever I'm going to go through. Give me strength to not do anything to this low life. And thank you for letting me see them for the low life that they are. And I'm so thankful that the validation that's so real from mass shootings, manipulation of the mind, and all these horrible things. That shows who they're truly part of. And this purpose, whatever facade they show me, I see them for what they are. They're blinding me now. And I'm like, you've blinded a 9-year-old. Nothing is unique to me. And I'm so thankful that I can always go to see what they've done to others as reference. Like, they do these things to children. They do these things to women. They do these things to men. They manipulate people in this fashion. All of these tactics always been validated in other ways. To the point where even like the entities running this program validated that these people have this nastiness that they force us to experience. Well, in my brain, they're like, no, sometimes to make me accept these pedophilia things, they're like, no, we make you be the child. And it's just too much validation. But they get theirs, one way or another. In the meantime, God give me strength and target individuals see this purpose for what they are truly part of. Do not let them escape into this fantasy of what they put together to make you accept this false reality. The truth is they did involve themselves in something that is so foul that even babies are being tortured in this program, and they know that. Some of these perps that participate in your torture have even done that to more vulnerable people than you. So know that till the last breath that you are a dignified, honorable human being, and stay strong till the last breath.